Wherever you are around the world, welcome to week 4 of 100% Cricket, Leading the Game series. Thank you so much for joining us. Now, we've kicked off with the core subjects. We've kicked off with leadership, high performance and coaching. It's almost like being back to school a little bit, and we've had the key subjects, maths, science and English, the nitty-gritty of the curriculum. But today, it's like a new relief teacher's come in, they've looked at the game plan and they've gone out the window. We're going to do something new, something a little bit funky. So the structure will be the same, but with just some new additions. That's why I've got a little bit creative with a nice bold yellow behind the wall as well. So the webinar will run for an hour. Please note that the video of the webinar will be recorded and available on the ICC website on Thursday, June 11. We are talking all things innovation. Now, if you have any questions you'd like to ask throughout the webinar, please use the Q&A function and send them through during the discussion. The last 25 minutes of the webinar is completely dedicated to answering questions from the field, and the field is you. You have been absolutely magnificent over the first 3 webinars. You're so diverse, and we want to keep all that diversity of question coming through. Now, with the questions, you can be anonymous. However, we would really encourage you to use your name and also where you're from as well. Please don't be shy. We've been absolutely delighted with the engagement from our audience right throughout the webinar series. We've received some brilliant questions as well. In the Q&A function, you can use the like button to support someone else's question, and we will certainly help me prioritise the questions that we're going to ask as well. Right, innovation. Let's think about that a little bit. I want you to either think it can be a little bit disruptive innovation, or it can be the absolute radical. Completely up to you today. But to help us chat all things innovation, we have 2 players, current players, who I think are probably the most innovative in their field at the moment. A little bit off field and a little bit on field as well. So to help us out and get us really thinking creatively, the first of our guests today, well, let's just think. She's been innovative in a whole new way over the last couple of weeks, particularly off the field, but also since she's debuted with the Indian team in 2018, with one of the strongest and most engaged social media followings in the women's game. Jemimah Rodrigues has been connecting to a whole new audience through rapping, through dancing, and through what I would say is quite an infectious personality as well. She has been on a weekly show of late with her teammate and buddy in Smriti Mandana called Double Trouble. I can't believe it's finishing up. I'm going to have to chat to her about that as well. She is one of the next gen cricketers. She is one of the fittest in the field. She's a big thinker of the game, and she's got a game that can just transition across all formats as well. She's known as Little J. She's known as Jemmy. It's Jemimah Rodrigues. Welcome to 100% Cricket.
Thank you, Mel. I'm super excited for today. I mean, seems fun, interesting, something different. So yeah.
Speaking of different, Double Trouble, I was just getting into it. My Hindi's not great, so I needed subtitles, I think. That would have been my innovation in the program. But how did you enjoy it? Why is it finishing up?
Oh, it was super fun. I think this is what kept us occupied in the lockdown. I didn't feel very bored in the lockdown. I think it's definitely because of Double Trouble, because I always had something to do. And it was so amazing, to get to know the lives of other sports personalities. Like, I myself got to know so many new sports personalities, how they think, their mindset, and also the fun side to them. And also, I have realized that this job of hosting is not easy. So I have a lot of respect for you, Mel. A lot of respect for you.
Well, I hate to tell you, but you're going to be hosting this series from next week. So I'm just going to be handballed. So there we go.
I think I'll just stick to cricket. You're doing a better job.
Thank you so much. Our next guest is Sophie Devine. Sophie's first picked in the White Ferns at the very ripe age of 17 years of age. I won't say how many years she's been playing in the team, but it's been a few ticking on now. She's also one of those really annoying, multi-talented athletes, as she's also represented New Zealand in hockey. Has had a blockbuster 12 months, particularly with the bat, scoring a first ever maiden T20 100 against South Africa, and then just lazily went off to become the first male or female to hit 5 consecutive T20 50s in a row. She didn't just stop there. She actually got 6 as well. Thank you very much, Jemmy, from the audience. So last time we caught up, I had Katie Martin join us because we're a little bit concerned about you in lockdown and you might go rogue and get some sort of, cryptic tattoo or something along those lines. How have you been? Have you kept it all in check?
I have just. It's been touch and go there for a little bit, but I'm very thankful that everyone's done their part and things are starting to open up now. I think it's probably a good thing most tattoo parlours were closed during lockdown, so Katie Martin can stay safe knowing that I've got no new ink yet.
Right, yet. Okay. Now, I know you've been in Perth, but you must be pretty proud about New Zealand. No cases at all.
Yeah, look, it's been an awesome effort, and not just New Zealand, around the world. Obviously, countries have gone about it very differently, I think, a little bit like our chat today. People have gone about it differently, but New Zealand have been fantastic by our awesome leader, Jacinda Ardern's been pretty inspirational as a leader. So to have no active cases in the country at the moment, it shows that New Zealand's at the front again.
Okay, we're going to get straight into this and talk all things innovation. Now, it's fair to say that we can probably celebrate women in the game quite a bit in terms of innovation over the past. Got a really strong, proud history within the game. 1882, John Wills came in and got condemned for bowling round arm, and people think, oh, well, guys invented it. No, his sister, Christina, invented it because of the huge hoop skirts and then taught him. So we invented overarm bowling. Fast forward to 1973, we have our first ever World Cup, thanks to the forethought of Rachel Hayhoe Flint. The guys had their first World Cup a couple of years later. In 2004, we had the first ever international T20 game, and that was a women's game back in Hove, England and New Zealand. The ICC Women's Championships in 2014 was before the Men's ODI League, due to start later this year. And expansion of the T20 international status to all 104 members was in July 2018 within the women's game, and it will be the 1st of Jan 2019 for the men. Now, look, admittedly, the guys have chipped in too. They've certainly shown some fantastic innovations in the game. I don't know if you two will remember, you might be a bit too young, but Dennis Lilly came out to bat with an aluminium bat way back in the day. That probably didn't work too well in terms of innovation. But hang on a minute, let's the helmet, they invented that in, I think it was 1974. The irony of that, though, was that it was 100 years after the Protector. So it takes them a while to get to something that's really, really worthwhile. I'm just joking with you guys. There has been monsters amount of innovation in the game. Of all those things I just mentioned there, I'll start with you, Jemmy. Was there something that stood out to you that you thought, yep, that was one of the biggest innovations of the game?
I think it would definitely be overarm bowling. Because I remember going, we had the World Cup in Australia, so they had taken us to the Don Radman Museum. Until then, I didn't have much knowledge about how overarm cricket started and all, because that was way back. But it was so interesting to know that, a woman started overarm bowling. I never thought that, because normally they say cricket is a male dominating sport and you don't hear much about that. But it was so inspiring to hear, okay, we are also involved in some innovation. So that was so cool. And that too, it was because of the skirts. So when they used to bowl underarm, the skirts used to restrict their hands. So then they started bowling overarm, and now then everybody started using that idea. So I mean, that was that was interesting.
So if you can't pick the same one, it is, I know, right? You can't pick the same one. I'm sorry, Soph. Jemmy's already jumped in. What one stood out for you?
Oh, for me, it's got to be, and whether it's because New Zealand was involved or not, but I think T20 International, the first ever, way back in 2004. I actually think Katie Martin might have been a part of that. She is about 53 and still playing, so she's doing a great job.
Payback.
Yeah, it is. I just think that the way that the T20 game and the format has changed the way we play other formats as well. I mean, we saw David Warner a year or two ago playing reverse hits and things like that in a test match game, which you look back 20 or 30 years and I don't think it ever would have happened. So I think with the introduction of T20 cricket, it's certainly changed the way we play all formats.
One item that wasn't on that list, which I thought you might have brought up, Soph, was the invention of covers and super stoppers being from New Zealand.
Oh, ouch, that hurts. I mean, it is a very important part. You can't really talk much from Melbourne. One day.
That's actually really true. I should have thought about that one a little bit more. All right, let's talk all things COVID. I know you guys have been in lockdown and you've been doing some good things sort of away from cricket, but in terms of innovation in your own game to try and stay fit and healthy and getting ready for the season ahead. Have you created anything new that you think that might sort of come into play, Jemmy?
I didn't create anything new. I think for me, this COVID has got me back to how I started playing with my dad. So we have a small house. We started playing with plastic balls because the tennis ball would either break a glass or my mom would keep shouting. So plastic balls are the safest thing. And I think I've gone back to that in the COVID, due to the COVID situation. So I've practiced with my dad again with the plastic ball, done some knockings and stuff. And yeah, I've also realized that to be fit, you just don't need weights and all. You can also use your body weight, like push-ups, lunges, and you have so many exercises you can do, the circuits that can help you, get fitter. So actually, this has actually taught me, like, okay, we can use even our body weight to get the best out and, be fitter.
So if you started playing backyard cricket with dads and brothers, if you're going back to old school?
It's actually funny you say that. I haven't touched a cricket bat until last week. I actually obviously am over in Perth at the moment, and I don't have any of my cricket gear with me, which has sort of forced my hand a little bit like Jimmy. I've found a new way of training without much gym equipment. I've actually found myself running quite a bit, which is a little bit unusual, but I guess for me, I know. For me, keeping things ticking over, it's actually been playing some different sports. I've managed to have a run around on a hockey field, whack a ball around, getting out on the golf course, which obviously, I mean, it sometimes helps my cricket swing, but for me, it's been a really nice, refreshing, and again, like Jemmy said, it's been really nice to go back to basics for me. I haven't had much of a pre-season in quite a number of years, so to be able to go back and work hard on the fitness side of things in particular, when we do get back started in the cricket, I'm ready to go.
Sophie, with those biceps you have, I don't think you need any dumbbells or anything.
Thanks, Jimmy.
The jealousy there, I like it. So I think you're jealous. There's been a few sort of rule changes sort of coming and being spoken about now because of COVID. Sophie, you're an all-rounder. Lots of chat about saliva on the ball. How much have you been sort of reading about it and thinking about how you're going to transition into playing?
Yeah, look, it's certainly a really interesting one. Obviously, things have been taken into consideration with the COVID situation we find ourselves in now. Lucky for me, I'm a very heavy sweater, so I'm okay using sort of forehead sweat and whatnot, but it's going to be a real change of habit, I guess, using saliva to clean the ball, shine the ball up. So I think that's going to take a little bit to get used to, especially in the field. It's just such a common thing. I know, all cricketers, you sort of see them rubbing it along the side of the pants to buffer it up. So I think it could be a wee while for us to sort of slowly click into gear.
Okay, let's start talking all things cricket. I think it's probably fair to say in the men's game, there's a lot of discussion about whether or not the balance is right in the game. Is a little bit too heavily weighted, particularly in T20 cricket, towards the bat. I think most people that watch the women's game still feel as if there's a nice balance between bat and ball. Jemmy, do you think we've got it right at the moment? And if we're starting to think innovative ways to develop the game, do we need to have that at the forefront of our mind to try and keep that balance right there?
I think so. We've done pretty well, to get the balance right in our game. So, I mean, yeah, things are going very well. As you said, like normally it's like, if you put it, it's kind of, towards the batter side, the game, especially T20 cricket. But, there's a lot of way we can definitely improve that. And I'm sure that we are going to discuss all that over here today.
Okay, come on, put one out there for me. You're a batter. It's slightly weighted in your favour at the moment. Do you think, the poor bowlers, can we give them something back? Can we put an extra fielder out? Can we make it 5?
We can do that.
Okay.
It was that, but now they've shifted it to 4 fielders outside, and actually I don't really know what we can exactly do with that, because I like it with 4 fielders outside. It gives us a lot of innovation even in our batting. Can just shuffle towards this side and hit it across where the fielder is up for us. So yeah, I've not really thought from the bowler's perspective actually.
So I think every year people talk about little tweaks to the game, so sort of that slightly disruptive innovation rather than sort of the radical. From your perspective now as captain of the White Ferns as well, you'd be looking at things slightly differently, potentially even maybe going back to 1 ball in ODI cricket. What sort of come across your plate?
Yeah, look, it's really interesting. And Jimmy's spoken like a true batter, not having 1 ounce of a thought for 4 balls getting pumped around the ground. But I think it is a really exciting prospect. The small tweaks that have been made, we saw 4 fielders. I do think that it's weighed towards batters a lot more than it is bowlers. Probably not to the extent that the male game is, but I think certainly we're going that way. We're seeing the amount of boundaries that are now being scored in the female side of things. It makes for a really exciting clash, but poor bowlers, their confidence, which is why I think we probably need to stay with 2 balls, especially in one-day cricket, just because it gives them that extra bit of advantage if they can hit the seam or get the ball swinging like a lot of players can. I think it's a really interesting time to see how you can either make small tweaks to the game, whether it's a fielder in, a bowler, bouncers. I think is another really good one. Is how many can we bowl of them? We've seen the women's game change slightly. So yeah, I haven't seen too much radical ideas like you're suggesting, Mel, but it's certainly really open to maybe different ideas that are out there.
Do you think it's fair enough to say sometimes too the changes become because they've been placed into the men's game, and we might be able to shift things up a little bit? So the men's game, yes, it's 1 bouncer per over, but maybe for the women's game where we don't have as many quick bowls and we want to try and encourage it a little bit more, that we could be a little bit innovative in that space and say, well, maybe it is 2 or 3.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I wouldn't be off the mark in saying that. I think the women's game is really open to different ideas like that, and we're open to change. We've obviously come into the game, although we led the way with T20 cricket, I think we've got to be really open around how we can almost encourage more people to play the game as well. I think if we stuck with traditional formats, we'd be missing out on a lot of new players, new kids, new athletes to the game. So I think it's a really exciting idea to see that we might be able to, encourage people along that, make it tailored towards the female side of things.
Okay, before we get into sort of the innovation around the rules and conditions of the game, I want to stick with, I suppose, the core elements of it. And this has been a topic that's, and Jemmy, I'm going to come to you first. This is going to be the hardest question I'm going to ask you today, okay? It's been a topic, and when there's been more and more, typically guys coming into the game and talking about the game and looking at it for the first time, there's been a lot of discussion about shortening the pitch more so than anything else. And I think, from my perspective, I think a lot of the thought and the comment about that is because they genuinely want to see the game flourish and prosper, and more people to get involved in it. But it's still a overlay of they want the game to look more like what they're used to watching, which is the men's game. So, Jemmy, I'm going to start with you first. When you hear about comments coming from people new to the game, coming in and saying we want to shorten the pitch, what's typically your reaction to it? Is a hang on a minute, let's not compare it that much, or are you pretty open to it?
To be very honest, I would go with, let's not compare it that much, because, at the end, you got to accept the fact, there are slight differences between the game. But we can also be open to, try it out. Like if that is going to, help the game improve and take it to the next level, then why not? Why not, kind of get a thought to it and kind of think about it? Because at the end, it's, we want to promote the game. We want to get more people to watch the game and more people to even join the game. So, yeah, I think it is a good idea, and, you can be open to it.
So if the comparisons often happen within cricket, it probably doesn't happen as much in other sports. I'm keen to get your thoughts whether or not there was any discussions in and around hockey when you were playing back in the day, or we've never heard about, lowering the rings in basketball or the like. What's your take on the pitches, and even going a little bit further, even the size of the ball?
Yeah, I think it is really interesting. I completely agree with what you said, Jimmy, around if it's going to help the game flourish, I think why not? Why would we not have a crack at it and see what happens? I think you've always got to have a bit of trial and error and see what works. I'm probably a bigger fan of looking at a smaller ball but keeping the pitch the same size. That way I reckon bowlers are going to be able to bowl the ball quicker. I think spinners are going to be able to turn the ball more. Hopefully the ball should fly a bit further as well, whereas he's still keeping, I guess, the traditional length of the pitch. The only real change I can think of in the hockey format is around going from halves to quarters, but that's not anything to do with length of the pitch or anything like that, and that's consistent over both men's and women's hockey. So yeah, it's a very interesting one.
Couple more here just to float with you, just to get the creative juices going before we get into the question and answer time from the audience, because trust me, they're going to give it to you. Double runs for big sixes. What do you reckon about that?
Oh, yes.
I thought you'd like that.
Again, we are being partial to the bowlers. I'm just speaking from the bowlers' point of view so that Sophie is not mad at me.
Well, this one's not going to help at all, is it? Can't go out first ball.
No.
No, says the batter.
Classic backyard.
I mean, it's unfair, right? But yeah, but it is interesting. I mean, any batter would love it so.
Okay, so if you've already chatted about a smaller, and we're talking smaller ball size, we know that the weight of the ball is already less than the men's, but often you can probably still have the two different balls in your hand, probably still think that they're pretty much the same as well. The other one is an interesting one, is the super sub. Now, I know they tried this a while back in One Day Internationals, but this is another opportunity of a little bit of innovation where potentially maybe the back four ends of a T20 international, the captain, Sophie Devine, might say, well, you know what? I've hit 60 off 20 deliveries and I'm out. I went out in the 12th over. I now have the opportunity of bringing back a player within those last 4 overs. Soph, what do you reckon of that?
Yeah, I'm not actually. I don't know. I think how would you work it? What if you're still in? Like, I've been in games where Jimmy's just batted the whole time, and I'd want her to bat again. But
yeah,
I'm really interested to see how that works and whether that decision needs to be made, once the game started or before the game even starts. I think that could add a real strategy part to it, and it's a bit of luck as well. I mean, you can have players in form, but we all know cricket can be a pretty fickle game. You could be in the form of your life and get out for a golden duck. So it could be very interesting, that.
Yeah, and the flip side, Jemmy, is that it could not just for the batters as well. It might be that the captain might be able to say, well, a bowler's bowled 4 overs. So Poonam Yadav's bowled at 4 out. She's bowled spectacularly well, as she usually does. That Harmanpreet Kaur might say, in the last 4, I'm going to use my super sub and bowler for 1 more over. What do you think?
Yeah, I think as Sophie said, it's very interesting. But at the same time, we have to decide when we can nominate a certain batter or a bowler to be that super sub. And yeah, I mean, I totally agree with what Sophie said. Like, cricket is a game, like anything can happen at any time. The one in the best of form can get out early. In the same way, the one in the best of form may not have their day at bowling the same day. So it will be very interesting, and it will be more exciting, and it will make the captain definitely think a lot more.
Okay, well, the two of you have played a very straight bat so far. You've agreed with each other. You haven't caused too much disruptive behaviour. Let's take it to the live poll and see what our audience has been thinking in and around this topic. So we've heard from Soph and Jemmy. What do you out in the wider audience think about the different options that we've just mentioned? We might come back to that one. Everyone's frantically trying to get on the live poll now and vote for what they think is best. Can you go out first ball? Yes or no? Super subs, shorter pitches, smaller balls. Yeah, we'll see how that ticks on over. Right, another question for you here. Technology has been a big part of sport, particularly for decision making and for the fan experience as well. Do you have any ideas in terms of the technology side of cricket? And have you seen technology in other sports where you can actually think, hang on a minute, that actually might work quite well for cricket as well? LED boundary ropes, I'm just going to throw a couple out at you here at the moment. Smaller, thinner, lighter pads. I know back in my day they weighed a ton, so they're probably a lot better now already. VR from the dugout or from the lucky fan out in the field. What kind of technology coming into the game could be a big role player, Soph?
Oh, geez. Look, I'm hopeless on technology, so I'm probably the worst person to ask about that. I think if you think about technology, and I know the no ball rule has slightly changed where we had an umpire, a third umpire looking out for no balls. I wonder if there's some sort, I know there's goal line technology in soccer. There's something similar, whereas an implant in a bowler's shoe or that can detect when they've stepped over the line will certainly take that element out of it. I think I'm not sure whether I've got my bowlers or batters cap on for that, but yeah, I think there's so many opportunities now with how quickly technology is advancing.
What about you, Jemmy? Have you any thought on the technology in the game?
I have thought about it. As you said, you can compare it to other sports also, and you can add some technology in cricket. So many of the matches have been washed out due to the rains. So as in tennis, they have a retractable roof. So, I mean, we can try something like that in cricket. I don't know, it might cost a lot of more money, but, why not throw in the idea out there? I mean, it'd be cool. Instead of a match getting washed out, we can play. The only thing is if Sophie hits those huge long sixes, then she might be at a little loss. But okay, I mean, we can make some rules for that. 2 runs if it hits the roof.
Well, I can confirm it does take a lot of money, because there is a stadium here in Melbourne that has a retractable roof. The Melbourne Renegades, the men's and women's teams play there during the Big Bash, and it's probably saved a number of games already. And they've had a couple of internationals there as well. A couple of people hitting the roof. I think Aaron Finch was probably the first one there as well. So Sophie could be the first one to close the roof in WBBL.
Yeah, I think we maybe need to look at backyard rules, isn't it? If it hits a tree and you catch it, you're still out.
Yeah, one hand, one bounce and the like. Okay. Apologies to everyone. I was on the wrong page. So we do actually have the live poll voting coming through, and wow, blown out of the water. The one that everyone is pretty keen to follow up on is the super sub that had most of the votes here today. There was only one person out there for not out first ball. Lacey Healy, knowing her, she goes pretty hard straight from ball one. Double run zones was 13. So on that one, we were talking about potentially that either Sophie or Jemmy could go out and say, right, I'm going to nominate a certain area. It's straight down the ground and you can hit double runs for there as well. So quite a few votes coming through from that. So certainly appreciate you guys getting involved as well. Okay, let's move to formats of competition for cricket as well. I mean, cricket's been probably one of the forerunners, I guess, in terms of multiple formats, test match cricket, ODI cricket, T20 cricket, and it's changed probably exponentially over the last few years as well, with a variety of different formats. We've seen T10 cricket. We were about to see the 100 this summer. We'll see that next year as well. But there's a variety of other options that you can certainly look at. Matthew Mott last week on the coaching webinar mentioned, rather than having 50 overs for the one-day internationals, going back to 40 overs to try and get rid of those sort of middle overs where the ball's just getting knocked around a little bit. Multi-format series, we've seen that in the women's Ashes between Australia and England, whereby a point system is in play for T20s, one-day internationals and the one-off test. The Softball World Cup, so anything to do with tennis balls and a nice soft ball. We've seen it with gully cricket, tennis ball cricket, backyard cricket. We've spoken about that quite a bit. So much more sort of social orientation and participation based. And then the Women's Champion League. So we're looking at winners of, say, the 100, the Women's IPL or the exhibition games, and the Women's Big Bash getting together for a champion T20 team. So there's a few options there. I don't know if we've missed any, Jemmy, or what do you think about those ones on the screen?
My personal pick would be a Champions League, because it would definitely be interesting to see, a Big Bash team, an IPL team, and I think it's called Super Smash, right? I'm not sure.
Yep.
Yeah. So, all these teams combined and played, and it's not just international players playing, it's also the domestic players of that particular team playing, and it'll be very interesting to see these teams clash. And you're definitely going to have a lot of entertainment, and as well as a lot of good games and a lot more learning for the players who are playing it and even watching it. So yeah.
Big question though, Soph, is who do you play for if this Champions League gets up and going?
That's an interesting one. I think I'd have to stay loyal to my Wellington Blaze, current champions of the Super Smash. But I agree with Jimmy. I think a Champions League would be so exciting, bringing together different teams from different countries. I know when the men played it, there was so much positive feedback around the experience they had. Obviously, being played in India was unbelievable. So I think something like that. For me, though, if I'm thinking about from an international perspective, the multi-format series, I think the Ashes is outstanding. I'd love to see that brought in for any bilateral series. Doesn't matter if it's New Zealand versus India, New Zealand versus Australia, whoever it is. I just love the concept that every game matters and it all goes towards, the final overall winner of points. Okay,
I'm going to just give a couple more minutes for people to keep voting on what they would like to see in terms of new formats and competitions. But Jemmy, I'm going to ask you about that multi-format series as well. You would have kept your eye on it over the time. Does it excite you? Would you like to play in one?
Definitely, I would love to play one. And, whenever we get the opportunity to watch the Ashes and, the kind of, matches they have, and they get to play Test, T20 and ODI, sometimes I get a bit jealous that they get to play Test cricket, because, we've not had, I don't know, like it's long time since India has played a Test match. But yeah, we're definitely very excited, to look at the multi-format series, and hopefully we have that soon. Yeah.
Okay, well, everyone's becoming very boring because they're just agreeing with you on absolutely everything you've been saying so far today, guys, because having a look at the votes coming in terms of formats of the game that the audience would love to see. Yep, once again, but actually, I take that back. It's reasonably close. But the Women's Champions League has topped the poll, closely followed by the multi-format series. And then after that, down to one-day internationals becoming 40 overs. Matthew Mott will be very happy with himself there and saying it all started with his little comments on 100% cricket during coaching side of things. And equal, actually, with the ODIs becoming 40 overs is softball cricket World Cup, because that would certainly bring in a whole different element of player as well. So once again, thanks to everyone for voting on that one. We couldn't really go too much further in terms of innovation and not talk about a new competition as well, because the Commonwealth Games, we've seen it in the men's back in Kuala Lumpur many years ago, but now all of a sudden we have the chance of women's cricket being in the Commonwealth Games. It'll be in 2022 in Birmingham. I suppose it's exciting, isn't it? For two players that have played hockey, and you probably would have thought about playing Olympics at some stage in your life, this is probably the closest you'll get in terms of being part of just a multi-sport, multi-country outside of the cricket realm. Does it excite you, Jemmy? Is this something where you just go, I know World Cups are the ultimate, but the Commonwealth Games must be something pretty exciting as well?
Yeah, definitely it will be something exciting. As you said, World Cup is the ultimate, but there's something different about an Olympic or a Commonwealth game. And yes, I used to, whenever I used to see the Olympics going on, I used to think, when will I get the opportunity? And at that time, I didn't know whether it would be cricket or hockey, but I used to always dream of having something like that and wearing that medal. So I think this is very exciting for me. So I never thought that, cricket would come in a Commonwealth thing, but yeah, really looking forward to it and super excited for that.
So Edgbaston in Birmingham, it's got the Holly stand. They're probably one of the most raucous crowds in international cricket. Does that excite you as well to think that it's cricket, but it's on a different level?
Yeah, it is. It's something that I think is just so exciting when you think about cricket. You feel almost quite isolated. You're in your own cricket bubble. And like you said, Jimmy, it's almost as an athlete to be around other athletes in the village, to be watching other sports. I think it's something that I know I'm really excited. As soon as I heard it, I just had, so much excitement bubbling away. So for me, I think it's going to be massive. I think it's going to be massive for the women's game. Edgbaston is awesome ground. As you say, fans really walking behind it, which always makes things very interesting.
Right. Okay. So we've warmed up the audience, I think, brilliantly. Thank you so much, guys, for all your interaction so far. But it doesn't end there. Now you're going to get grilled from the audience. My questions were so easy. I've already seen them on the side of the screen here. Yes, a little testing moment. So while we're getting ready with these questions, just a reminder to everyone, please pop them through, pop your name down, where you're from, and we'll try and get through as many as we can in the next little bit. Okay, the first one is from Emma, who's at Cricket Victoria in Australia, and a little, yes, shout out to Emma as well. What do you think are the key factors in allowing innovative thinking and actions? Is it leadership? Is it culture? Is it necessity? I told you guys, my questions were so easy. Soph, I'm going to give you this first one.
Oh, gee, the old hand.
I'm so glad, Sophie.
I think it's all of them, to be fair. I think it takes real strong leadership to be open to different ideas, to having a crack at doing something different that isn't the norm. Obviously, not everything's going to work, so you've got to have a really strong leadership there, I guess, to open up those opportunities. Culture as well, you've got to be open-minded. I think it's all well and good being presented with opportunities and variations on rules or whatever else, but if you're not open-minded and willing to give it a good crack and give it a go, it sort of almost shuts it down before you've even, I guess, had a look at it. So I think it's a great question. I think it's all of the above and a necessity. I think we spoke earlier, if it's going to help the game flourish, if it's going to get more people playing, going to get more people watching, then why would we not try it?
Yeah, Jemmy, last year with the women's exhibition games around the IPL, it was in Jaipur. They had to shut the gates at one point because they weren't expecting the 17,000 to come in. So there was heaps of people outside clamouring, trying to get in. So there's obviously an appetite for women's cricket in India. Are you happy to go along with that same sort of development, or do you think it's now's a time to go, no, let's get a little bit more creative?
I think, for India, because of the kind of passion and the kind of fans are in India, it's much easier, to get many more people involved in the game. Whereas if you go to see in other countries, they all love the game. But, if we can get more creative with, how we can get more people to come and watch the game and support the game, I think that's going to, really going to help. And why not, if in Jaipur we had 17,000. So I think if we can get more creative and more ideas, why not have 30,000, 40,000? Or as you all saw at the MCG, I mean, that was crazy, 84,000. I mean, that had a lot to do with the ideas put in by ICC also, because, ICC had actually promoted the game so well on social media, on various platforms. They had like literally team videos, then they had inside the dressing room videos, they had come across with, so many different ideas. And before every game, they had 2 videos each per team. So I mean, that brought a lot of attention, and not just that, but people actually got to know their players well. They also realized, okay, women's cricket exists, and not just exists, but at a good level, and they got to know their players well. So if we can come across with ideas like that, how we can reach out to people, definitely we can have like 84,000 in many games, many more games.
And of the 80% of all those digital pieces put out, Jemmy, I think you were in all of them. That dancing with the security guard was pretty cool, though, at the MCG. This is a ripper. This is from Sean, and it's one that we actually had a chat about a couple of days ago. But Sean's a coach, and he's saying he would love to have direct access to the captain on the field. Now, if you sort of rewind cricket, it was back in around the men's 99 World Cup, I think it was, and Bob Woolmer actually was mic'd up to Hansi Cronje on the field. So they put a kibosh to that pretty quickly. But can we look at a way, and Soph, as a captain, would you want the coach in your ear consistently, or maybe occasionally, just to help with game plans and tactics?
Yeah, I guess it's a really interesting one, because you think about other sports and there'll be halftime breaks or quarter time breaks where the coach is able to come on and talk not only to captains but to the full team, which, I think that's a real advantage, being able to come in whether you've seen something in the game. I'm not sure if I'd want Bob Carter, the current White Ferns coach, in mind for the whole game. I think I'd heard it. But I think it would add a really interesting element. Obviously, that's the beauty of cricket, though, I find as well, is once you're out on the park, it's just you, 11 players, your decision making. I don't think there's many other sports out there where the captain has such control over tactics and strategy. So it's a fine line whether you want to change that or you want to, open it up a little bit more and have a bit more input from the sideline.
Jemmy, I'm just going to change it slightly for you rather than from a captain's angle. And I'm going to ask you go out to bat in a one-day international, you're mic'd up. It's not to say that you have to have, contact all the time, but do you think it would help the start of your innings, the middle, at the back end, have your coach just chat to you at different stages throughout your innings?
Firstly, it will depend who is my coach. No, I'm just kidding about that. I'm just kidding about that. No, I think, it has its benefits, and it actually depends from person to person. Like, some people like to be alone over them, like to make decisions on their own, whereas some people love the support, or sometimes that emotional support, or whatever you get. So it actually depends from person to person. And, at the end, if, that's going to help the player, and, that's going to give the player, the kind of confidence they want, so why not? But I would strongly say it depends completely on the player and what the player wants.
Right. Okay. I like it both. Big tough one here. I'm just trying to decide who I'm going to go to first on this one. So if I've gone to you first on a number of occasions, so I'm sorry, Jerry. This is coming to you. Right. A question from Amitu Sengupta from Calcutta. Do you think we should retire out batters if they are not able to play the game the way it's supposed to be played, particularly in the T20, just to make things interesting? So the question is, if someone's not quite getting the strike rate going or is holding up a little bit, can you retire them?
I mean, it's an interesting question again, but I think, that would just what do you say, just take away the fun of playing the game. I mean, if you could just have rules so that okay, if you don't feel like this will work, you can just get in somebody else. I think cricket won't be as challenging as it is. And as a team also, you'll kind of work strategies around that, and you'll, think more about that and develop that more. So to be very honest, I wouldn't be for it, but I think you can give it a thought. So kind of an idea.
So if we're just chatting about the balance between bat and ball and really not rewarding the bowlers too much, are we saying, well, this person's not, the strike rate's not good, somebody else in?
Oh, not at all. And what's the bet that they bring in someone who goes and bops you for 6 sixes in a row? Just the bowler's luck. I think it is a really interesting one. But for me, that's where cricket awareness comes from, and the smarts around that is learning, okay, well, how can I get off strike? Or as a partner, am I doing the old yes, no, wait, yes, no, oh, run out sort of thing? It's, really got to have those cricket smarts about you, which I think, like you say, Jimmy, you don't want to lose that just by being able to tap out and get someone else in.
Jane Powell's joined us again, former England captain and coach. So if I'll go to you first on this one, do you think innovation comes from the players with regards to skills, or from the rule makers within the game and the format itself? And secondly, how do you think the new 100 competition might affect innovation? So let's go with the first one. Yeah, is it players working on a new skill, a little ramp and the like, or are they creating this because of the change within the format itself?
I'm not too sure. I guess it's chicken and the egg, isn't it? I think back to sort of T20 cricket, and I think about the Dill scoop and McCullum playing these scoops and things, and I'm not sure if they would have played that if they were having to bat 50 overs or having to bat in test match cricket. So I think to that extent, I think the rule changes and format changes have probably forced players to look elsewhere. But now, like I said earlier, it's almost as though being exposed to different formats and the different shots and the variations of bowling and the rule changes are now affecting all different formats, which I think is a great thing, because I think it's making the game a lot more exciting, not just at T20, but one-day cricket, at Test cricket as well. And I guess the next part of the question, the 100 ball competition, I think it's going to be a fantastic format. I think, people might say, well, it's only 20 balls less than an innings, but I think the strategy that you need for that, we saw the impact T20 cricket had on the international game. I think same thing could potentially happen with the 100, in that slight differences in how you go about it as a batter in particular. Probably doesn't change too much for me. I'm going to go for it from ball one. But, the batting orders, who you bowl, obviously they've got the rule around you can bowl 10 balls in a row, which fitness-wise I'm definitely not keen on. But those sort of things I think are great, obviously, innovations that are going to force the hand of players.
Jimmy, you get into the nets, you're practicing for a T20 World Cup, you're practicing a variety of different shots. In a time like this, where we've got a little bit more time up our sleeve, do you get a little bit creative and funky in the nets and think about the game in a different way, and ways in which you might be able to change your game for your next period of your career?
Yeah, definitely. Now since we have time in hand, I can, develop many more shots and, not just stick to the certain shots I have, but, add more shots to my armory. So, that's a good way, because you can actually counteract the strategy the captain's making and even the bowler's making, like if you have more shots in your armory. But yes, at the same time, you need to perfect it, and you need to make sure that you are sure about what you're doing over there. So yeah, definitely I'll be using this time to develop more shots, and try and get creative, and see where exactly I can improve my game. And again, cricket is not just about strength, it's more about creativity, it's more about the mental game. So yeah, that's what I normally stick to.
So you don't need Sophie Devine's biceps now, is that what you're saying?
Yeah,
I wouldn't say that. It would be an advantage for me.
We're going more to now have a chat about letting in a newer audience into the game, and we do have a webinar coming up in terms of fan engagement as well. So this is sort of leading into this in a little way, but it's from Jamie from the UK. Is there an option to make the women's game as accessible to everyone over different media formats, and not just for the more traditional television audience? So cricket came through. It came first through on radio, and that's still a magnificent medium for accessing cricket. And then TV came in. It seems the most broadly watched format, but there are a few different other formats, and we spoke quite a bit about digital as well. We're going to go to the digital queen to start with here, Jemmy, because you're the expert here. Have you thought of different ways in which the game could be broadcast to newer audiences?
Yeah, I mean, there are many more ways. As I said, first it started with the radio, then it started with the TV, but now there are so many other ways, like there's social media. Now there's even Instagram where you can have IGTV videos where you can actually watch, a 15-minute or a 5-minute video, whatever it is, where normally people would not have gone to YouTube and watched it. And because nowadays generation is so much into social media, it's, more easier to, promote the game through there and get, more accessible to, what's happening and how you can improve. I mean, even watch more videos and just not just get to know your player, just watch the player on the field, but also off the field and get to know how they are actually. So yeah. And
so
there's TikTok also now, which is trending a lot. I mean, a lot. David Warner is one of them.
He's been going absolutely ballistic on TikTok, hasn't he? I think you need to match it at some stage, Jimmy. Come on. Game. So if I'm constantly looking over my shoulder as who's coming through in the commentary box next, I've heard you. I think you'll be absolutely brilliant in the commentary box. Matthew Mott's going to kill me now because he spoke about we need a lot of the players to go into coaching. One thing that I've noticed, though, is that within television itself, there may be an opportunity of having people being able to access through their TVs different types of coverage. So would you be a fan of, or would you choose one that you could choose a traditional type commentary, or I'm new to the game here, I'm going to explain the game a little bit more on a different version of commentary, or even a third different type?
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's a really important thing about I guess engaging new people is it's got to be suited to them, whether that's like Jimmy was saying, whether it's on Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, and it's in their own time as well. I think we're seeing people now obviously are probably a little bit more time poor, so they don't have all day to sit down and watch a test match or watch a 50-over game. So being able to go back later and watch a 15-minute replay on their phone or on their tablet, I think that's something that definitely needs to happen. I know New Zealand Cricket have now signed, I guess, a broadcast deal with Spark, which is, a digital provider going across on internet. So I think it's really interesting to see how different boards are going about it rather than sticking to the traditional, I guess, TV broadcast. I would certainly be keen for, I guess, an option of commentators. And I know back in New Zealand they've got one, the ACC. It's a little bit of a a humorous take on commentary, but it's great fun and having options as well. I just think that's what everyone wants at the end of the day. They want to have different options that's tailored to what they like.
And I guess you probably hit the nail on the head too. It's tailored to the environment as well, isn't it? So what might work okay in New Zealand might not work as well as in India.
Yeah, absolutely. And I guess that's the job of each board, of each player, of each media social team is how do you work to your, I guess, to your public, to your fan base. It's going to be really different. Obviously, in New Zealand, we've only got 5 million, whereas Jimmy, I think you've probably got 5 million in your village, do you? You've probably, the difference is there to Australia, to England, to all around the world. So I think at the end of the day, we absolutely want to, I guess, push cricket and be that up the top of the tree. But how that's distributed across the world is going to be different. It has to be different.
Okay, there's no name attached to this one, but it does start with on a lighter note. So is it possible to have a mixed team in cricket, like having about 5 or 6 male and female players on each team and then playing out the middle? Jemmy, I'll start with you because there was, and I'm starting to think it was 2 years ago during the IPL, and it was the Rajasthan Royals, I think, spoke about having a mixed gendered game. I think it was sort of quashed at some stage, but thoughts on that?
To be very honest, I think, it's a good idea, but at the same time, there's still a lot of gap between, the men's game and the women's game. I'm not saying we won't reach that level. We'll definitely reach that level, but, I think we'll need a little more time to get to that level. So maybe not at the moment, but definitely soon in the future, we can definitely think about this idea and, have a mixed game.
So I don't know if you remember this, but it probably was 20 years ago. Zoe Goss played in a game at the SCG. It was a sort of a celebrity game, but she got Brian Lara out, caught behind. Rickson keeping up, took it very, very nicely. And you could look at this. Brian wasn't overly happy with himself. I don't think he was expecting that. Your thoughts on a mixed gendered game?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there is a place for it, but like Jimmy said, it's sort of got to be it's got to be appropriate. I think, me facing a Mitchell Stark Thunderbolt, I'm probably not going to get much out of it apart from probably a broken arm. But if we can, I know as a New Zealand side, we play a lot of, I guess, warm-up matches against younger boys team, representative underage group teams, which I think is a great challenge for us. And if we can raise that standard so that we can mix gender team, I think it'd be a really exciting prospect.
There is a question here from Anonymous. Unfortunately, we can't put this out to anyone, but a lot of thumbs up from a lot of people. So a lot of people are thinking along these lines as well. Is there an opportunity for cricket to have an all-star weekend, including innovations like skills and challenges similar to the NBA in new markets to grow the game? So for people out there who might not be au fait with it, it's a great weekend. That's where they have the slam dunk competition and all these sorts of things. So you bring the skill set of the best cricketers in the world to one spot and you can really highlight it. Jemmy, what would be your skill? What competition would you go into that would highlight your skills the best?
I will highlight my skills the best.
So if you can jump in here and save her.
Well,
yeah, please.
Hey, probably fielding, diving, outfield catches, hitting the stumps, hitting over cover. Pretty good at that, Jimmy. Unfortunately, I've seen that too many times. Over cover, watching it sail over.
That's a good one, isn't it? I mean, the catches on the boundary is probably one of the innovations in fielding, and it's because of the rules, isn't it? So because you can't fall over the boundary line, just take the catch. You've got to throw it back a little bit. So if you could try and set up a bowling machine that just gets the ball over the boundary line to see who can take the best catches, that would be pretty cool.
It'd be very exciting.
Yeah.
Lucy Bates would absolutely love it. Anything to do with the NBA. She'd want to beat LeBron James, though, of course. But I think it's a great idea. I think as well, you're sort of focusing on the cool aspects. If I'm thinking of, shying at the stumps as a challenge, boundary hitting, like you're saying, diving, fielding catches. I think there's a real opportunity there to sell it to a younger audience.
Okay, this one is directly for you, Jemmy, so buckle yourself in here. Any possibility of holding a women's IPL in the coming year? If it happens, how much will it leave an impact on the women's game in India?
I think definitely, BCCI is honored to, start a proper women's IPL, because if you see the Big Bash and the Kia Super League has, developed the game out there so much for Australia, for England, and even now for New Zealand, even they have started. So, that's definitely going to develop the game, and it's not just going to develop the game, it's going to get newer talents. Like we came to know about Shefali Verma, like through an IPL. She did so well even in the IPL. We knew she could do well in the domestic circuit, but after that, playing against international players and still, being able to be that fearless person, we can get many more such talents rising up, playing such matches. So definitely it's going to develop the game so much. It's going to give a lot of bench strength to India. And, we're going playing matches in front of a crowd is, it's completely different. It's a different experience. And that's what's going to help us playing international cricket. And the experience we're going to get, like sharing the dressing room with Sophie, Devine, with Meg Lanning, and with so many other people, we ourselves get to learn so much. So, I think it would be a great thing, to have a women's IPL. And definitely, I think BCCI are on it. And hopefully in the future soon, we'll be having a proper IPL.
Sophie, you've seen the development of the Women's Big Bash here in Australia right from the get-go. Do you think it'll be that and a little bit more in India?
Oh, massively. I think we've seen the impact that the men's IPL have had on the world game. And I think I've been fortunate enough to be involved in the last couple of Women's T20 Challenge in India. And it's such a fantastic opportunity. I think as cricketers, you either think about playing in England at Lord's or you think about playing cricket in India, where it's an absolute religion. So as Jimmy said, the experience to play in front of huge crowds in those conditions for an overseas player is massive. And the thing that I loved most about it was interacting with these young players. You're talking about Shefali Verma, gee whiz. I mean, it's like, I just think it's so exciting to think how many other gems are out there that can be unearthed and be exposed to, that next level up.
Yeah, we're fast running out of time, unfortunately. So I'm going to hopefully squeeze these ones in here. This is from Poppy. How about an extra couple of overs for one of the bowlers in a limited overs game? So we've talked about potentially it being weighted towards the batters. This might be a way just to weight it back towards the bowlers a little bit. Captain Soph?
I I'd definitely love to be able to hand the ball to my best bowler of the day. I think fitness, I guess, is probably going to play a part in that. But I think about, well, you think about Poonam Yadav at the recent World Cup, I would have wanted her to have bowled 20 out of the 20 overs. I think that could certainly be a great innovation to the game where for bowlers dominating, they should be rewarded. I think sometimes it's hard to pull the ball away from them when they're going really well, and they can change the momentum of a game so quickly. So I think that's a great idea.
Jemmy, would you be up for it?
Yeah, definitely. I agree to what Sophie said. Like, we wish we could have given Poonam Yadav 20 overs. But yeah, I mean, it makes a lot of difference, you know, you can actually go in the side with actually 5 bowlers or what you need. And because relying that, okay, one of them will, get an extra over, get to bowl few overs. So if anybody fails, so you can add up even to your batting order for that. So I think it makes a lot of difference, and especially at crucial moments, when a bowler can win the match for you, there's nothing like it. Because actually, if you go to see, it's the bowlers who actually win a match for us. I believe that. I actually do believe that.
Now you're talking some sense, Jimmy. Finally,
we've got there.
It doesn't see, because it doesn't matter even if we score 200. If the bowlers don't bowl at the right areas, that 200 is nothing. And sometimes it happens that batsmen do fail and they get out within 100, 112. But it's the bowlers that actually pull off those matches and we win the matches. So a best example is the first match against Australia that we played in this World Cup. I mean, it was like, you could just see it. So I totally, it's a good idea, I feel.
Okay, we're going to finish up with, can we take innovation too far? In a little bit of research leading into today, you type in innovation, you type in sports, and all these things pop up. One that stood out for me, the Dallas Mavericks in the USA, they have what they call is Tinder Swipe Right Night. So basically the Dallas Mavericks will be playing a game, but on this night, it's all about Tinder, and you can come along and you can go meet people, but also watch the game as well. Is there a point where we take innovation too far, Jemmy? You don't have to respond to Tinder Swipe Right Night, but do you think we can get a little bit too crazy, or should we just go crazy?
I think, it has the advantages to it also and the disadvantages to it also. I think it's how you take it. And yeah, why not? If it can promote the game at the end, if it can, help the game or get more audience to come and watch it, so why not? But I mean, it's totally up to, I'm no one to make the decision. That's
a perfectly well played straight bat there.
Thank you.
Scooping there for you. So if you're going to play a straight bat? Oh,
look, I don't think you can ever be too innovative. I think you've got to give it a crack. I mean, you never know who you're going to get along there. Swipe Right Night, it's got a lovely ring to it, I'll tell you that. I think, again, it comes to bringing in new people to the game. At the end of the day, sport's an entertainment business, isn't it? And if that means you're joining up with the likes of Tinder or whatever else, you never know who you might hook into the game of cricket.
There we go. I think between the two of you, you've just inspired a lot of new crazy thought out there. So if things are going to come through in the next couple of months, I'm going to blame you two to start with. And if it really comes off, you'll get commission for it, whether it's ICC or your home countries. Can I say thank you so much? You've been absolute troopers, because this has been sort of left of field a little bit. We weren't too sure what kind of questions we were going to get from the field. The questions were great. Your responses, though, were absolutely outstanding as well. So thank you so much for that, guys. We have one final poll for you to take part in today. We've shared the poll link on the Q&A. Please visit www.menti.com, and this time you need to use the code 469669. This week we are asking, what would be your dream fan experience with your favourite female cricketer? Now, if the replies come through and they don't have Rodrigues or Devine in there, I'll be absolutely baffled. Please be as creative as you possibly can. For those of you that are watching the webinar as a recording, please do take part. The poll will be open until Tuesday, the 16th of June, and we will present the results at the beginning of next week's webinar, which I can also now announce. For week 5 of 100% Cricket Leading the Game series, we will be talking 100% passion. and I'll be joined by Alexandra Willis, Head of Communications, Content and Digital for the All England Tennis Club that hosts the Wimbledon Championships. And if you remember last year, there was some great banter between Wimbledon and the ICC during the men's 50 over World Cup at Lords. It was absolutely outstanding. And also Karen Rogers, APAC Sports Partnership at Facebook, to discuss how we can raise the profile of the women's game and engage more fans. We've already got fans coming in because of the likes of Sophie and Jemimah. Let's see if we can get a few more across the turnstiles as well. Once again, thanks for being part of 100% Cricket. Stay safe, be kind, and we'll see you next week.